welcome to the Secure After Dark podcast. This is a little spin-off from the Secure AF podcast. We're here hanging out in our office bar. I am Tanner. I am kind of over our engineering team, over our red team, and this is Robert.
I'm Robert.
What do you do here, Robert?
I like to say I break into companies and I hack companies.
All right. We thought for the first episode, we'd do some kind of war stories type of talk. If you're familiar with DEF CON or any of those type of war stories. Not actual war, definitely much less serious. We just going to talk about some of our favorite physical stories. Some, what's our favorite times we've broken into companies, some of our favorite social engineering stuff, just some stories. It should be pretty fun. We wanted to start off with a little bit of a whiskey review. We got an Irish here. I don't think Robert has tried this one yet, so we're going to get some opinions. I'd like to get some other ones for ones I haven't tried, but
I'm definitely not a seasoned whiskey drinker like yourself.
All right, so let me know. It's Redbreast 12 for anybody at home. So cheers, man. Let me know what you think. Love that one.
That's good.
Yeah, like it. All right.
I definitely agree with you. That's definitely a good whiskey for people that don't normally deal with whiskey.
Right. I feel like for it, I get a shortbread cookie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Kind of weird.
A little bit of that.
Kind of weird. Yeah. All right. So I guess let's start off. What's something that you think about whenever you think about, you've been doing this for a few years, so I don't even know how many companies we've physically broken into at this point, but. So what's your, what do you think of whenever you think about like, what's the coolest physical you've done? Or maybe we can talk about funniest too. What's the coolest one you've done? What's the one that made you feel like just a badass?
Some of the coolest physicals or, the most interesting to me are those that like at times, don't really sound that interesting.
Yeah.
Cause it's like, I got from point A to point B with almost no interruption.
Those are the most successful.
Like uneventful, successful is the craziest to me now that I've been doing this so long. Just, going in and saying, hey, I'm your elevator technician. And, they call someone down and he's like, hey, here's the key ring for the entire building. Do what you got to do. Let me know when you're headed out.
Break it down for me. What's it work like whenever you walk up to a place? Give me a, I started off in the parking lot. Walk me through it. What's it like whenever you show up as an elevator technician? And I should note that his badge at first just said Otis, elevator technician. It did not say it. Yeah, that was the whole badge. It was great.
Totally forgot my name. Any kind of, anything that would mark it as serious other than just a picture and a big old, Otis logo on there.
Yeah.
Really getting started with that. It's just like, I'm going to get out of my car. Because, part of why I like the whole elevator technician thing so much is like, who could say what an elevator technician looks like off the top of their head?
Yeah.
It's not like you're saying, oh, I'm a firefighter. And a person's like, well, you don't look like a firefighter.
Right.
Nobody has that preconception of this guy looks like an elevator technician. So really, just getting out, stepping into a building. And if I don't have to, I'm not going to talk to the receptionist. If they don't flag me down, I'm just going to walk on by and see what I can do from there. But if they do, just like, hey, here for a regular quarterly elevator safety inspection. However hands-on you want to be with this, feel free. Sometimes they'll just be like, oh, elevator's over there, go at it. Sometimes it's, oh, let me call someone.
And what happened the last time?
Last time I did this, they were like, oh, I'm just the receptionist. I don't really know about that. Let me call a guy. And took that opportunity to be like, hey, mind if I use the restroom real quick while you're doing that? Like, yep, restroom's back that way. Cool. Just went, hung out in the restroom for 5 or 6 minutes, walked out, and found myself in the server room in a couple minutes.
Very good, very good. Nobody questioned you on the way, just walked right in?
No.
Yeah?
No, just walking around. Nobody really ran into me or had any thoughts about who are you, why are you here?
Okay. I don't know if I told you about my first physical. It's been many years, but my first physical. So this company was out of state, about 4 hours away. We hopped in the car, started driving out. There were 3 of us. One of us was going up there. So it's a multi-tenant office building. We're, 8 or 9 floors up, pretty big building. And it's like you go up the elevator and it's a man trap. So it's just glass doors on both sides and they're badged to enter, hit the intercom. That's all you can do. Can't even go to the bathroom there. When there was 2 stairwells. So we split into 3. One went to one stairwell. So one went to north stairwell. I went to the south stairwell. One of our other guys went to the elevator up the middle. And so our elevator guy, we wait till he comes in. We're all texting, group text. Okay, did you go up? Wait till he hits the doorbell and starts talking to him. He's like, oh yeah, I'm here to, inspect the lights. And I'm here from the property company, which we looked up on the way there. And he goes, I'm just here to inspect the lights. I know you guys have been problems with those. They go, finally, you're here for the lights. And so he's walking around looking at lights and he's poking stuff. You don't know what he's doing. He's whatever. And but he's got their attention, right? And so I go up the south entrance and I use a gate tool, just like a big U-shaped piece of metal. For those who don't know, I hit the latch on the door because there's a shielded latch, so you can't just like hook the latch and go around it. So work perfect. Had it with me in my tool bag. I have a history past of doing HVAC stuff, so heating and air. And
so you can talk the talk.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I know all about it. So I show up and I've got some filters, which is funny because you wouldn't use these type of filters here, but the people with me assured me it was a good idea, and apparently it was because it worked. So I'm carrying around filters and a tool bag. The tool bag is just full of physical tools. And pop the door, start walking around. I've got my button-up HVAC company shirt. I've got the hat for the company on, and I've worn it for years in the past, so it looks worn. Works great. So I walk in with that and just start walking around. I'm nervous. It's my first time. I'm like, this is. I know I'm allowed to do this, but it's very nerve-wracking. The first bunch of times you do it, hey, it's still an adrenaline rush to do it. But yeah, the first few times, it's nerve-wracking. And so I walk in and I'm just walking around and I start seeing people. I'm like, do I dodge these people? Like, do I avoid them? What do I do? And I've got a flashlight.
Next thing you know, they're walking past you and don't even talk to you. And you're like, oh, man.
And that's exactly what happened. And I'm walking around and I've got a flashlight. And I'm like, you're getting condensation from these vents? And I'm walking around looking at the vents, going at all the offices, waiting until I'm in an empty office and then seeing if the computers are unlocked, seeing what ports are there and stuff. And I'm just walking around the whole thing. And eventually I'm in there for 30, 40 minutes. And by the end of it, I'm like walking to the CEO's office, like, can you get up for a minute? I got to check your office out. like
how far can I push this before somebody calls me on it?
It was great. It was great. And, 3 of us got in, 3 of us got out. And we call our contact and we're like, hey, we were just there. We got access to the server room. We got plugged into the network. We were able to run responder, capture credentials. We were able to do all these things. And it was like, okay, I can do this. Like, that was really, I think, my first time where I was like, oh yeah.
And I love how you mentioned, somebody talking to the first guy you run into and they're like, oh, thank God you're here for the lights. Yeah. That, whether through research or just complete blind, dumb luck, when you say something and the person is like, oh, thank God you're here for that. You're just like, okay, this person is bought in. Right. They're not going to question me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm here to check out your internet. Oh, thank goodness we've been having issues with the internet all week. And there's just that extra level of trust because how would somebody know that the thing is broken?
Yeah. And that's a common one too. Our most recent one of our engineers, it was his first physical. And I was, I'll be honest, I don't think I prepared him as well as I should have. I was very nervous about it. I was, a couple parking lots over. I was trying to prep him for the stuff and make sure it was good. And so he's the Cox guy. Cox is local ISP if you're from not near here, the big ISP. We looked up, made sure their IPs were registered to Cox. So that was easy enough. So he walks in and he says, yo, yeah, I'm with Cox. We do a fake name badge and stuff, but his badge wasn't very good. I didn't see the badge before I left. So, but
I did see the badge before he left. Badge is a very loose term to be using for what he walked in with.
He printed off a piece of paper that had Cox and his face on it, I think, and put it in a badge holder behind a badge. So it's clearly just paper if you looked at it. So he walks in and he ends up almost immediately getting into the server because he's like, oh yeah, I'm here about the internet problems. Cox is a horrible ISP. They have lots of internet problems. Yeah, chances are you're having some. So, he walks right in, gets into the server room, gets out, and I'm like, okay, cool. did you get the Dropbox? And he was like, what? So he didn't do the Dropbox. So I was like, okay, you got to go back. But again, something I didn't mention to him that I didn't realize, you should always leave your stuff open-ended if you can, right?
Yep.
So, hey, I got to run back to the office and check some stuff. You might be back. I might be back. I just have to run down to the office. If you need to just dip at that point, you can. It's not a problem. But if you need to come back, you also
make sure they know that you're coming back, so you're not just disappearing, coming back in, and they're like, what are you doing back here?
Right, exactly. I didn't tell him to do it. He just did it. It was instinctual. So good job on him if he's listening to that. So that was, but he came back and he goes, yeah, I'm here to, I got to put in this sensor. It's holding it's a box. It's going to dial back to our VPN and we can pivot into the network that way. Boom, we're good. So, he gets in and they go, let me see your paperwork. And he's got some paperwork that's questionable. Again, should have been a little more prepared on it.
And I think they called him on the badge too. They're like,
they did.
Is that a piece of paper? And he just, rolls with it. And he's just like, oh man, I've been working here like a month or two. It's the weirdest badge I've ever seen. I don't know, dude.
And that's where social engineering comes in. Social engineering is that off the cuff. You can just roll with it.
Yeah.
And that's where he did awesome. And that's one of those things that's like, you can either do this or you can't,
Yeah.
And it's like, I think everybody has to play to their strengths, where he's a real charismatic dude and he just, get people to like him. He's a good talker and stuff like that. And I think if you're not, you just have to just play to your strengths.
Yeah.
We got more to that, but so this guy, he then at that point, he's like, look, it's a weird badge. I don't know. I'm just here. I just got to plug in the sensor. That way we can figure out when your problems are happening. Because, he's like, oh, the problem's not happening. He's calling me, acting like he's on the phone with Shaq at the office or whatever. And so he gets back in and, they're super suspicious at this point. But like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and let you in. And he gets it plugged in. He's like, all right, cool. This is going to monitor it for a couple of days. And, then I'll come back and pick it up and we should be good. And it was great. So he got in second time, got the Dropbox plugged in, first physical. Yes. Good job. So,
yeah. Certainly that was crazy to hear about. I was trying to have no expectations for what he was going to accomplish. And then I hear this story and I'm like, they let you back in after the first time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
That's great. That's great.
I got a question.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing that you exploit on physicals? Like specifically doors. What's your favorite?
Probably air duster.
Air duster?
I really like using air duster. It's fun because it's such a benign thing. Where you're like, oh, it's a can of air duster. I'm an IT guy. But for those who don't know, you can use it to trip request to exit sensors. So if you take it on a rec sensor, you turn the air duster upside down. They work off a temperature most
Sometimes.
Some work off a motion. We have another method for that. But you just turn it upside down and you spray it upwards at the sensor through the crack in the double doors or through the top of the door, close to the sensor as you can get. And it sees that change in temperature from the air duster being cold. And you hear a pop. As soon as you hear that pop, it's like, oh yeah, I'm in. But it's worked many times. It's one of those things that sounds kind of crazy. I guess it's a little more high tech than most of what we do.
I don't know. I mean, you would. Granted, yes, compared to some of the things we do, like shims, where it's like, I tore this off a milk jug. It's a little more high tech than that. But you can do it with a lot of different things, not just air duster. I mean, you take a little bit of sip of whiskey and blow it through a crack in a door in the right way, and you can kind of get a similar effect.
Yes.
Or even, a vape pen, just big draw off that, go through the door. Could be enough to trip a sensor.
Yes. Yeah. There's lots of ways you can do it right. Air duster is the easiest, of course. And they make even fancy air duster. It's all compressed. Yeah. But, I think that the first time I used air duster was really cool. It was a fairly large company, also a multi-tenant building. I walked up and I was going to, just try and ring in, just try and figure out how I can social engineer in. So I walk up and I looked it's a big glass lobby. And I look to the left and I see receptionist not there. I look to the right and I can see far down there's a couple people, but they're
not paying attention.
No. And I'm like, oh, I have air duster. I think this is a requested exit sensor. And so I just pull it out and I spray and I pop the door and I walk on in and I'm just like, dang, that was
easy.
That was easy. walk up to so I walk down, and it's a kind of an inside joke for people who do physicals, and it's like, when in doubt, listen for fans, because fans means server room. As you can hear, it sounds like a vacuum cleaner behind that door. That's probably a server room.
Like either someone's really hot or there's a server
right, right. So I walking around and kind of like, I don't really know. Because the contact said, see if you can get hands on servers. They didn't want us to plug in. They just wanted us to get hands on servers. And so I'm like, all right, cool. And so I'm walking around, and all of a sudden I hear that sound. And I'm like, okay, I think that's it.
There's something important in there.
Yeah, yeah. And so I walk up and I take a plastic shim, and it's 5 seconds on a plastic shim. Pop it open, walk on in, take a selfie. Take a selfie with the with the servers, and okay, cool, I'm done. That was, I got physical access to servers. Leave, never talk to anybody.
And man, hard to beat that as far as how well did it go,
right?
From our end, at least. But there are two of my favorite photos I love to have in reports for physicals. The server room selfie, or the client was really cool and they gave us some security camera footage of seeing us in the server room.
Yes. If you ever have a physical pen test, anybody who's watching this, and they ask you for security camera footage, please do it. It's great. It's great. I have a great picture of me where I'm walking into a server room and I'm like looking at the camera. It's fantastic. I love it. I can't share it with anybody, unfortunately. That's the worst part about this job, is all these stories are super vague, and there's a bunch of like,
and people are like, oh, who was it for? And you're like, I cannot share that with you.
Yeah, there's many layers of NDAs, so we have to be very vague about a lot of this stuff. But it still makes for some good stories.
Yeah.
Man, I got a lot of stories. You got any others in mind?
Nothing in particular, but
it'll come to you as we talk about it.
Oh, 100%.
All right. I got one. It was we did a bunch for this company, bunch of physicals. It was an out of state pen test where it was physical. We had 3 people. And one of them was our camera guy. He's going to be laughing in the background. It's okay. We were going to stake out this company, right? So we drive around the day before, and we're trying to figure everything out. How do we get in? What do we do? And we notice there's a rooftop bar catty corner to it. And so we're hanging out, and let's go in there as soon as they open. They open at 11 for brunch. Great, cool. So we walk in there, and we go up to the top. We walk 5 stairs. It was weird. Walk all the way to the top of this building. We get to the bar, and it looks straight down across the street on top of this facility. So, we set up our camera. It's videoing. Cool. We know when they're going to leave for lunch. We know when they're going to come back. We know we can hang out there all day.
And you can have a drink while you're doing it.
Yeah, we had a couple drinks. Well, you kind of have to at that point. Otherwise, it's really weird.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to blend in, and it's no problem. And we're hanging out. It's a very, very swanky place, very nice. And then we're looking at the drinks. We're like, these are really weird drink names. They're all kind of sexual and strange. And we're like, it's a little weird. Turns out it was a very, very like a swinger gay bar type of place. And we did not know that, but it became very obvious once we knew. We were like, oh, yes, of course.
Everything is clicking now.
Of course it is. So we sat at this gay bar, and we walk in, and we're like, we need to sit over there. And it's like 100 degrees out. And we're like, we need to sit over there. And we're talking about the corner of their patio. And they're like, what? We're like, we just like to be secluded. Okay, sure. It's air conditioned in here. No. We need to sit over here. And we sat there for 5 or 6 hours, and we just sat there all day. And yeah, it was cool. We learned their patterns. We learned when they leave, when they come back. Due to the nature of this company, they do not leave at noon. They have a noon thing that happens, so they leave at 1. Okay, cool. That's good to know. They come back at 2. So if you come back in a rush of traffic when the gates are open, easy, right? They don't leave at 5. They usually leave at 6. So like it's these things that you need to know that you can learn from the stakeout. And we learned that from staking out at a rooftop gay bar. And what we did is that night we discovered that they're kind of a skeleton crew at night, but they are a 24/7 facility. So it's not weird for people to come and go, but, got to be kind of sneaky. So that night we had one of our guys. He went and he climbed the fence. They had tiger teeth atop all their fences, which are like these spikes that go on the top of fences, make it where you can't climb them. It'll cut you up. It's bad. But he, well, we noticed from the stakeout, because we could see down on the gates. Climb the gate. So he climbed the gate. He goes, and there's a car that comes in the gate. As soon as he goes, oh crap, he runs up and he ducks behind an air conditioner. And he's there for 30, 40 minutes, and we're watching him. We're texting him because we could see, because we went back to the bar.
Go now.
We went back to the bar, and so we could see. So we're lookout, right? We're lookout down, and we're
just
watching.
the perfect view to see everything from there.
It couldn't have been any better. Like, and that's something that we'll commonly do, is we'll commonly see if there's a way we can watch from across the street. We've bought hotel rooms we can watch from, all kinds of stuff. But that was perfect. Aerial view down. I can see the whole parking lot, both the entrances, all the way up. Couldn't have been better. And let me tell you, the pictures in those reports, it was like we had an aerial view of your pin size.
Here is our aerial photo, and you'll see here circled in red one of our engineers ducking behind an HVAC unit.
It was pretty much like that. Yeah. So I'm texting him, hey, wait, you have to wait. He's right there. This guy just stopped right by the air conditioner. I was like, you're busted. You have to wait. And they never busted him. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's you just hang out here. So he found a way that he could go and he could set up pencils. Ask me if you see me sometime, I'll show you. But it's a trick that we do where we set pencils up against a crack in a door. Whenever the door opens, the pencil falls in, and then the door shuts, but it doesn't shut all the way because the pencil stops it.
Just enough gap to, keep that latch from hitching and totally closing the door.
Right, but it's not so much that people notice. So we use it a lot, actually. He walked around the outside, hit all the doors with pencil, and then he went back to the air conditioner and waited until somebody left. And then he just walked up, opened the door. Keep in mind, he's wearing a polo, he's got a computer bag. Kind of looks like an IT guy. And so he starts walking around. He's avoiding people, doing everything like that. He gets in and out. He does get confronted. He gets confronted and he says, oh, I'm here to check the Wi-Fi. Okay, that's weird. I'm here from corporate. He says, yeah, why are you here? And blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, they told me to come between this hour and this hour because they have a thing between it. Sorry, I'm being so vague. I have to. But they said, oh, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, you probably
don't want them here interrupting things while people are working.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Okay. And he was able to kind of duck out where he was like, okay, I'll be right back. I'll come meet back up with you. And then at that point, they were super high alert. So he just left. He knew, like, okay, this is bad. I need to get out.
Everybody's spooked. Not a great time to keep going.
Yep. So he got out. He got hands on a lot of stuff, got most of the objectives. The next day, cameraman here and we decided to go in. I went in. I was like, hey, this is a job interview. I need to get in here. I'm supposed to meet. I have my resume here. I'm supposed to meet for this job interview. It's a networking. I'm a network engineer back in the day. So I was like, yeah, here's my network engineer resume. And the other guy is a pest control. So he's walking around spraying the building, and he sees somebody go through a gate. And he kind of walks on through the gate, keeps on spraying. Nobody thinks of it. Kind of walks inside after somebody. He's got a sprayer. Nobody really thinks of it. I think eventually he got stopped. And they were kind of like, hey, you need to make sure you guys get approval for this. You're not with our company. He's like, I don't know. I was just told to be here. So that's.
I don't know, man. I just work here.
Yeah. It's always a great answer. I knew. So yeah, that one was fairly successful. We did a bunch of them. We talk about that all day, actually, probably days. So that was one that comes to mind, just because the stakeout usually stakeouts are boring, but that stakeout was kind of fun because it was from a bar.
Yeah, what better place to do a stakeout than from a bar where you have ready access to food and drink?
It couldn't have been better. But then our vulnerabilities were like, people can watch you from a bar, and they were like, I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, we can't exactly, kick the bar out.
Sorry about you.
Man, you mentioned your first physical. My first physical did not go as well, at least for me. But man, I came up with the idea of, I'm going to apply for a job, for this industry, and I had a lot of things running through my mind. Pretty nervous. I was younger than I am now, and our other engineer, whose first physical, it also, it was his first physical too.
Right. Yes.
And we're just kind of winging it. We're not really sure, where we're going to go once we're inside or what we're going to do. And we start to get spooked by things like, it's an open floor plan office. Everybody's going to be watching. When, the reality is there are people in and out all the time. Nobody knows everybody. A lot of people are not going to question one dude just walking around.
Yep.
And so, I get to the front desk and I'm like, hey, I'm, here to, potentially apply for a job. I talked to so-and-so that I had looked up prior. And the secretary's like, oh, yeah, I'll go talk to him. And, well, actually, when she's asking, oh, what's your name? In the back of my head, I'm thinking, certain pieces of advice that, you or other engineers gave, like, use your real name so that if they ask for some form of identification, you're not instantly popped because they're like, well, that's not what your ID says.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there and she's like, what's your name? And I pause for a second or two, just, long enough to be awkward. And I'm just like, Robert, which my real name, but said in the most suspicious way possible. And she's like, okay, I'll go get him so you can talk to him. And, the other engineer that's with me, he's, I assume, still next to me waiting to talk to the receptionist. But, dude comes out. He's like, who are you? Why are you here? And I'm like, I'm looking for a job. And he's like, we're not hiring right now. What are you doing? And I end up just walking out. And that's when I realized the other engineer that's with me is gone. I'm like, did he make a quick escape? And then come to find out, he took that opportunity of the secretary walking back away from the desk when nobody else is around to see him just dip into the building.
Yep. I like to think it's because he took some advice from me, where a piece of advice I always give our engineers is, if you see an opportunity, take it.
And don't hesitate to take it.
Do not hesitate. Take it. You have to be aggressive with it. If you see that opportunity, go for it.
100%.
And I think that, so he ended up getting a Dropbox implanted and getting into, he walked into like a janitor's closet type of thing and found a network jack, plugged it in, good to go. So I think you've taken that advice in later years.
Yeah, I've definitely caught on to that more now where, I've had instances where I'm in like a multi-tenant building.
Thinking about one in particular.
I'm looking at like this door that's in the corner to this small office.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how am I going to get in here? And I find out they have two doors on opposite ends of this building, entire hallways apart. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll set up a pencil on this door, see if I can get in, hang out in the bathroom for a bit. Super low traffic. Nobody's really around. I'll probably be waiting a minute for this pencil to, fall into place and hopefully get me in that door. Well, go walk out, look at the pencil, look at the door, this massive steel door. And I was not expecting the pencil to fail so spectacularly, where it's not like, oh, it didn't fall in right. It's like this door closed with enough force. This pencil is stuck in this door. I'm not getting this thing back.
So I need to make sure I get you one. But I have a metal pin in my physical bag that has a rubber tip, and it works perfect. I need to make sure.
That sounds great.
I'll get you one. Yeah.
But thankfully, on the same pen test, I'm walking away from this door where the pencil's at, like, not getting that back. Might as well check out the other door. And as I'm rounding this corner at the end of this hallway with this door on the other end of the hallway, I see someone badge in, open the door, and just clear it. And in that split second, I'm like, okay, I need to get to that door and grab it before it closes, but not like full speed sprint down and make this person aware that I'm here. So I'm, power shuffling down the hallway to last second grab that handle before it closes, and got me in, got to the server room, and Bob's your uncle.
But the thing is, you got in and nobody was questioning you at that point, because you got in and nobody said, oh, there's this weird dude here to check something out. You hadn't talked to anybody.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to talk about how can you successfully social engineer. Don't is my favorite option.
Avoid conversation.
That's the best thing that you can do. Yes, getting good at social engineering is a very good thing to do. But everybody wants to talk about, oh yeah, there's all kinds of books, and I read them all, right? Verbal judo and the art of social engineering and everything like that. I think that they're all written by people who have thought a lot about it and haven't done a lot about it.
And I think in a lot of scenarios that stuff applies more to places where conversation is super relevant, not necessarily physical pen testing where, I have a goal that I can get to physically without any conversation. It's not like I'm buying a car.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it's even more relevant than buying a car. That's for sure. So I think that one of the things that I kind of took away from that type of stuff, where I read all these books, I read everything about it, and then I got to thinking about whenever I was a punk kid and I was trying to get away with stuff. And all I would do is play to my
yeah.
I'm kind of an asshole, and I can be a little bit intimidating, I've been told. So I use that where I come up to people and, they'll say like, oh, we can't let you in here. So I do HVAC often. I'll tell you one that I did. It was for a pretty good sized bank, several franchise big bank. And so I walk in the front and I'm like, I've got my HVAC shirt on. I've got my tool bag. I'm like, hey, I've got my gauges and everything, barely selling it, work orders, clipboard. I go, hey, I'm here to check out your Leasure systems. It says it's got high head pressure. And they were like, we're not expecting anybody. I was like, yeah, we just got an alert. We got some of our monitoring. It's high head pressure. And they were like, we're not really expecting it. I was like, look, I don't really want to be here, but it's high head pressure and I have to deal with this right now. And they go, well, we normally use X company, and I hand them my gauges. And I go, here, you want to fix it? And they kind of looked at me like, oh, a little bit taken aback.
You want the responsibility for this? You want this to be your problem?
That's what I did next. And they were like, no, we have to look. I was like, look, this is high head pressure. It's actually not that big of a deal, but they don't know that. I said, do you know what that means? And they just kind of look at me and I'm like, look, if you want to deal with this, if you want me to leave, I need you to sign right here. If you can sign right here, this says that this is your problem. This says that you told me that I can't come fix your high head pressure. And this is on you. And they're like,
and of course, yeah, they don't know what it is. Just you're totally baffling them with your bullshit.
Right, exactly. And at that point, I'm like, look, I'm not trying to be an asshole. But I'm like, look, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'll be in and out 5 minutes. And they're like, okay, all right. I'm like, look, I might have to get to the controller. Do you know where the controller is? I'm like, it's often in like a computer room type of thing. Sometimes it's by the AC. Usually the ACs are in computer rooms. Oh yeah, the AC in our computer room. Yeah, look, yeah, I'll do that. I'll get to the controller. I'll be in and out 5 minutes. The goal was to get to the server rack, hands on keyboard.
Yeah,
done. Cool. I'm like, look, that's all I needed. I'll be out of your hair. Thank you. Bye. That was it.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. And that's playing to my strengths. But some people are just super antisocial.
Like me.
Yeah. Some people are maybe autistic. But no, for real though. And you learn how to play to your strengths. Where it's like that awkwardness that you can do is actually a skill.
Yeah.
Because people don't want that.
Oh, 100%.
People,
you make that conversation real awkward. A lot of people are going to do everything they can to get out of it.
Can you give me an example?
Man, I don't know that I've really leaned into that as much as I really could.
You should.
More often than not, just try to avoid confrontation.
Yeah.
Like I've been called a lot of things, but intimidating has never been one of them. If anything, I look like an NPC in a video. If anything, I look like an NPC in a video game that like nobody's super concerned with if I just walk by in a hallway.
That's a talent, to go unnoticed. Yeah, that's a skill for sure.
And there's certain things you can do to kind of bend that, more into your favor, where like in the instance where I tailgated someone past a badge door, they're not going to question it.
Yep.
If I'm past a door with a badge reader and I'm just walking around, they're like, oh, he must have scanned his badge. He's supposed to be here.
Yep. So I can talk about my favorite, I guess. So my favorite physical, it was actually a full red team. So we had done all kinds of external, trying to pop stuff, not super successful, running fuzzers. We're kind of full stack pen testers, I like to say, but not super successful. So we decided, what can we do social engineering? So we did some vishing, got access. Cool. Hey, I'm with your tech, blah, blah, blah. I need to AnyDesk. Cool. Also, if you're doing phishing, if you're a pen tester listening to this, don't overcomplicate your stuff. If you can use AnyDesk or something simple, do it. Don't try to get them to download your specialized payload that may or may not get bounced by EDR. If you can use something simple, use it. Sometimes you need to use the complicated stuff. But
there's a reason tech scammers do it. It's super simple, and a lot of people aren't going to question certain stuff like that.
Absolutely. So I, we got an AnyDesk, cool. We got access with that. That was kind of where they wanted us to stop there. Did some phishing, got it with phishing. Like, oh yeah, dude, this is awesome. What do we do from here? Like, well, we need to get access to like servers. Okay, well, everything's VLAN'd off. We're not really getting much from there. We wanted to be really quiet at this point. So you might be thinking, oh, why didn't you just get a C2 beacon and blah, blah, blah. At this point, very beginning of the red team, we want to be quiet. So why do we
don't want to let people know we're there too soon.
Right. But we've done a lot of physical, like a lot. So we're like, you know what? Why don't we see if we can just break in here? So they have like 10 buildings on this campus. We split it into two. We've got a bunch of drop boxes. I think we've got 7 drop boxes, something like that. And a drop box is something that's just going to VPN back. We can hop on it and pivot into the network there. We have a local machine on the network running Kali or whatever.
And if I remember right, you got them in some weird spots on that engagement.
We did.
Like behind a vending machine.
Yes.
In like a plant potter, I think?
I did one behind a jack. So I pulled out the Ethernet jack, I popped it through, and then I plugged in a little short cable and then plugged into the Raspberry Pi. It was PoE. I had a PoE hat on it. It just happened to be PoE. It was pure luck. I had power. I was ready to do it, but I'm like, cool. And so I just stuffed it behind and screwed it on. Nobody ever found it. Put them in, and we got in all kinds of like server rooms and network closets and just stuck them in between a couple switches, and but we split it into 2. We get all these different buildings and stuff. I think I got 3 implanted. I think he got 3 as well. And we're texting, okay, cool, let's meet up. Let's figure out what we're doing. We meet up on the campus still. We're just walking around. At this point, I've been popping doors under cameras. I've been walking around shimming doors and just walking in, checking doors. And like, I am at this point convinced that their security does not watch the cameras. So I am fearless. I'm just walking around like, whatever, I look like somebody who might be here. Sure. So I'm I got a polo on. I don't look like this. It's fine. So I'm walking around, and we meet back up, and we're like, yeah, we haven't checked that one building. Okay, cool. Because the thing is, they have a legit data center, and we have not found it. We're like, okay, cool. There's
like, where could this be?
Yeah, a couple more buildings, and so there's a like a 3-story building. We walk in, first floor, go up second floor, third floor. We pop a couple of offices. We found IT offices. We're about to break into one of them. We realize there's people in there. As I'm like hands on the door, about to like, I'm like, oh, okay, and there's somebody in there. So we left. We went back down, kept trying to get away from this situation. And we're at the first floor and realize stairs keep going. And we're like, oh, cool, let's go down here. Urban exploration. You know what that is, right? Yeah, everybody knows what urban exploration is. If you do urban exploration, you can do physical pen testing. So just that natural, what's in here? So we walk downstairs. It's a basement level. Oh, wow, I didn't know this was here. We're walking and we check some stuff. And the first thing we find is they have a forensics lab. And so we find the forensics lab. I think we did a shim on that one door, went to a hallway with the forensics lab, and we underdoor tooled that door. Cool, got in, and we got a Dropbox in there. At this point, we've got one Dropbox left, and we're like, all right, cool, let's go ahead and get out. And on our way out, we notice a door that says authorized personnel only.
There's the ticket.
And we're like, what is that? The only reason we found this room is because it says authorized personnel only. Otherwise, I would not have found it. So we walk in. Oh, we underdoor tool it. We use the underdoor tool, get in, we walk in, and there's a hallway, right? Just this kind of like, I don't know, 18-foot hallway maybe. And there's 2 offices on our left side. Bunch of shelves, all kinds of storage on the right side. So I start going through the storage on the right side immediately. What's in here? What do I have access to? You should always say, I could steal this. If you can talk them into, if you're a physical pen tester, if you can talk them into stealing it, try to put that in the contract, because it's always really fun to steal a bunch of stuff. So say, okay, I could steal these things, cool. You've got switches and all kinds of stuff. On the left, there's 2 offices that say like security engineer and security analyst on the door. We're like, I don't know. And they've got lights on. We're like, oh, I don't know, man. We got to,
know.
at the end of the hallway is the data center, by the way.
Like in clear view, clear glass, it's not hiding anything at that point, I imagine.
Right. So, but we can't tell if anybody's in there. And so we're like, I don't know what's going on. And so we just knock on the door. We're like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. So we knock on the door and nobody answers. Oh, cool. I should mention, this is at the tail end of COVID. So
a lot of things are pretty empty.
The place was empty. So we nobody answers. We under door tool it. If you find an exploit that works on a door, it probably works on a lot of the doors in the office. You'll hear under door tool a lot for this because it's very common.
Not common for 12 different locks to be installed somewhere.
Right.
So like if they have one vulnerability on one piece of hardware, odds are that was copied throughout the entire building.
Exactly. And that was the case here. So we under door tool, security analyst office, cool. What do we have access in here? Do we have keys? We found some keys. We're looking for what can we get? I was hoping to find like a card to the server room. Didn't find one. Check the other office, found, oh my God, the expensive hardware that guy had in his office. Holy crap. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of hardware. I'm like, look, we could take this. Cool. We're videoing everything. I'm like, look. Okay.
You're like, stealing some stuff is on the contract, but this might be a bit much.
So we then walk down to the hallway and we're like, okay, server room door, it's a magnet. So for mag locks, we have I like to say our technique because I haven't seen other people do it.
Literal brute force attack.
Yeah. So you use airbags, the kind that you use to level for carpentry or to spread apart a car door for a Slim Jim or something like that. The same, you just pump them up like a blood pressure cuff. We use those for the doors, right? So we slide them in and we're pumping them up. We got 3 of them. We're pumping 2 up and then we slide in our 3rd one and we pump that one up and then we take out our bottom one and we're just working it closer to the magnet. We get it stuffed all the way through where it's pushing outwards. We just pump, door pops open. Heck yeah. Huge data center, right? And so we get our Dropbox put in somewhere they won't find it because I'll tell you why. Many people have locks on their server rooms, but many people also are on their server rack doors. But many people also have an EK333 key on those. So I carry one, very common. That was the case here. Pop the rack open, get our Dropbox in, cool. So we're like, all right, man, I guess we can leave now. On our way out, what we noticed is a pallet that was on a pallet jack. So we see double doors at the back of this data center. Oh, cool, these are doors to the outside, right by the pallet jack. So I just start wheeling the pallet jack out. It's full of Cisco hardware. I found out later it has almost $1 million of equipment. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we start
enough to give someone a heart attack.
And I call our contact before we fully leave. And I'm like, should I take this? And he's like, I'll note that you could. Can you put it back? I'm like, yeah, sure. So we put it back, drove off, left. That was it. And that was probably my favorite physical because we got to do all of the stuff just uninterrupted. It was fantastic.
Is this the same engagement where you're like, man, this mag lock seems kind of weak. Can I just pull this open?
So we went back another time shortly after to see if we could get back in and get drop boxes. It was kind of a different part of the engagement. So we went back in, and that was the other engineer. He was like, can you just rip that open? Because I do powerlifting and stuff. And he was like, probably. So I grabbed this door and I just yank and just pops open. I've got a video of it. So it just pops open and we're like, oh, yes.
Yes, I can.
So test your mag locks, right? Test your mag locks. Yeah. So that's my favorite. What is your all-time favorite story?
All-time favorite story. It makes a lot of good ones. Doing this constantly.
Yes, absolutely.
And definitely a lot of favorite particular moments. Favorite story. I don't know if I could give, just one overall engagement that I was like the best.
Sure.
But definitely, a lot of moments in different engagements where I'm like, that was kind of crazy.
Yep.
Walking in, hey, I'm here for your quarterly elevator inspection.
You've done that a lot. That's alarmingly successful.
I mean, yeah. I think alarmingly successful is because more often than not, it works. And if it doesn't work, odds are nothing was going to work in the first place. Like, they're already locked down, super paranoid about, outside people.
Right.
But, like, right. So secretary's like, oh, elevator inspection, cool. Let me get the maintenance guy to come down and talk to you. And he's like, oh, here for the usual inspection. You don't look like the usual guy that comes. I'm like, yeah, he's out sick. I'm kind of just a contractor covering for him. And he's like, oh, cool. Well, here's the elevator over here. There's the control room across the hall. And here's a key ring if you have any issues. And then he kind of holds it out for half a second. And before I'm able to grab it, he's like, actually, on second thought, let me just open this for you and prop it open. And I'm like, man, I was that close to just full key ring, full access to the building.
Literally, here's the master key. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and that goes back to the don't hesitate. If there's an opportunity, do not hesitate. Grab it. Yep. Always works. Well, man, cool. So, thoughts on the whiskey overall? Pretty good?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
I finished it, so.
Well, I think we could talk about this for days, but, we won't bore you guys.
Got to save some stories for next time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. And we've got some other engineers we can bring on, too.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for, viewing. If you've made it this long, congratulations to you for listening to our rants.
You're one of the cool kids.
Yeah, one of the cool kids, for sure. So, all right. Well, thanks again. I'm Tanner. This is Robert. And, I'll see you again on the Secure After Dark podcast. Thank you.